welcome. We love the topics that sometimes, we come up with in the sense of, hey, meditate, does it really work? Like, what is all this talk about it? The point here is that we know that when we're in rhythm and our bodies are in sync, that we can handle stressors. But the challenge is that the world is trying to set us out of rhythm. Pretty much everything out there that's trying to get your attention, to sell you something, to make you feel something's important that might not be, is probably all trying to disrupt your nervous system and your rhythm. So we need to get back into rhythm to some degree. Chiropractic is, really no different in the sense that your body needs to be in rhythm. Hopefully today, we want to get to science, because the science is king. Not 100% all the time, but we do want to show you what we've learned in simple terms. We want to talk about some simple techniques, hopefully, that we can integrate stuff every day. Any moment of any day, you could try to find more balance with your mind and your body. As a chiropractor, I know that we love to find the root to everyone's problem. I think about this recently, that more and more since COVID, and I think the exposure that the medical system doesn't have all the answers. And there might be things in the medical system that are pulling us away from health and not really helping us be healthy, or that we might not trust all the things that we hear. All these things are out there. So, you see more on Instagram and Facebook and social media. We get to the root of it. Let's find the root of it. And I 100% agree with this and believe in the sense that we want to get deeper. As a chiropractor, I understand that the body is a vitalistic being, that your bodies are not just mechanistic. If my heart isn't working, it's just my heart is the problem. No, it could be your nervous system. It's controlling your heart. You can have a lot of stress on it. It could be a lot of reasons. So when we talk about getting to the root, I think about this. I don't know many plants that have only one single root. Think about nature and roots and root system. There are main roots, and then there's lots of roots that come off the roots. If we want to get to the root, we probably have to understand where those roots have been planted and how we start to maybe change where those are being affected, right? So I love to say there's just a root for everyone's issue, or one single vertebrae to push, or one nutrient supplement to take, one specific meditation technique, one drug or one right therapy in the right way. But the fact is this, there are three main roots to your health. The first root is the fact that your body can be under traumas. Physical traumas can disrupt our body and they disrupt our function. And chiropractic usually kind of seems to live in that root more. But truly, chiropractors know that your body, another root that absolutely will affect that tree, that trunk, how straight it is, how healthy your plant is, you as a human being, is also the fact of what you're putting in it. How are you feeding it? Plants get it from the soil. So what soil are you surrounding yourself with? Is your soil depleted in nutrients? Are you not getting enough? The third major root then would be our thoughts. Our thoughts are things. And what we think about and we think about, we do bring about. Every day we have choices that we can make which direction, our thoughts are, but we have also learned how to have emotions and feelings since we were very, very young. Since we could even talk or walk, we were hitting the record button. Our body will learn certain ways to handle certain situations. And it will take pathways in which would have been helpful when you were 7 or 8. But as an adult, they may not be so helpful. And they could be holding us back from health and healing. So this is why we talk about meditation, because there's roots. And one of those roots has to do with our thoughts. That's why we're here tonight. But ultimately, modern life overstimulates our nervous system. Our technology overstimulates certain parts of our brain and way understimulates other parts. Chronic stress. There's an increased amount of tension, inflammation, and pain in our lifestyle, but stress is real. And meditation is really a simple, accessible tool with very powerful effects, just like the adjustment. It can reboot the brain. Chemicals will release differently after an adjustment. Different chemicals and the right chemicals like serotonin, dopamines will release after a meditation. Meditation, very simply, is a practice of focused awareness. It's really just trying to be aware. We like to say a term, and we do a lot of training and stuff, we call it boss. Be the boss of the moment. It just means to be present. So practicing that is what meditation is. To calm and rest the nervous system. Again, it's overstimulated. It's inflamed. In order to try to flush out some of those toxins, to calm down the intensity of it, we're going to use meditation. It doesn't require, silence all the times, or robes, or chanting, or incense, although those are all fine and great, and hours of time. The strongest pharmacy on the planet is in your minds. Your brain is the strongest pharmacy on the planet. It knows exactly how much of this chemical to give you, at what dose, and the right timing. No pharmacist or doctor can do that. Your brain does that. But when we have an inflamed, overstressed, and dysfunctional and imbalanced brain, it gets a little confused. Anything to add so far, though?
The mind emptying one really stood out for me, because probably 3 years ago, people told me start meditating. There's no way I can sit and just be still for even 5 minutes. How am I gonna meditate? And I learned that it's not about not thinking. And that's what I thought meditation was, where you just don't think. No. the thoughts are always coming in and hitting you. And some of them are negative and you can be like, that's not helpful, goodbye. And some of them are helpful and you're just like, oh, that's a pretty butterfly. Like, visualize the thoughts when they come in. Because for me, the biggest hump was getting over that I need to get rid of those thoughts while I was meditating. No, that's actually when I have some really good thoughts. Once I get past all of the negative stuff that I have to, like it's the bee that I have to swat away in the garden. But when the butterflies come in, that's when the magic can happen.
Your body will cry for help. If you don't focus on it, it will try to get you to focus.
It'll slow you down one way.
It will use whatever avenue it can.
Yeah.
It'll drop you off a curb when you're not paying attention. It will hurt your stomach. It will give you headaches. It will do what it needs to do to get our attention. Their body's many cries for help are infinite. And trying to understand where they're coming from, it can be tricky. But if we give it a little time and say, I understand that you feel I'm not dealing with things, body, be there. So fight or flight response, the body-brain connection has to do with a couple things that happen. Number one is your brain and your body are not separate. They're absolutely connected. And if you're in a sympathetic state, a fight or flight go mode, like we talked about, you are re-revving the engine up, but you're not giving it a chance to slow back down. The RPMs are just going. And eventually, if you rev the RPMs long enough, the engine dies. And that's a problem. What we're trying to gain here is flip from the fight or flight to the resting and digesting state, which is parasympathetic. And meditation, our attempt is to activate the parasympathetic system. If you get under a stressful situation, the typical response of our brain is to go to the fight or flight pathway. Meditation helps to retrain it to go to the rest and relax pathway, even in a stressful situation. Is it possible to reframe the fact that this person, wow, the IRS sent me this letter, it says I owe this money. Is there somehow I need to learn something from this? Like, it's not the first guess you say in your mind. Maybe I need to keep better records. Maybe, who knows what that is. But there are lessons to learn. But can we flip that and say, well, there's always something good in these situations? That is hard. So we have to be able to try to retrain that mind. That's why we meditate. Research on this, the stress hormone of cortisol, that is going to be the hormone that starts to really ramp our bodies into all the things that drugs are trying to sell us. Probably can lose weight because too much cortisol usually causes that. You're going to put you on Adderall, something to ramp our energies back up. It's going to, all the things that our bodies get deteriorated from, there's a drug that can possibly try to ramp it back up. But the cortisol, the stress hormone, is the key of a lot of those things. That's going to ramp up, and that is reduced when you meditate. The gray matter in the brain actually increases during meditation. Your brain grows. Your brain is plastic. It changes. You can lose it, or we call it blurs is what the term is, but it's not like it just totally dies and shrinks, but it becomes inactive. It doesn't have synapses or connections. And when you have a couple parts of the brain that aren't really active, they kind of blur and just become one section. And that can happen in your body too. If don't use this joint very well, you're not moving, or it's had a lot of pain, it blurs with another area. And then when you start to rehab, it wakes that area back up and you might feel more pain. But man, that adjustment, what was I feeling? I never felt that before. And we kind of unblurred that. So that's part of that. Improved sleep and mood regulation. The HRV is a test that a lot of times if you have a Oura Ring or an Apple Watch, that's called heart rate variability. And as funny as it sounds, you think, well, man, I'm so erratic, I'm probably super variable. You want to be, oddly enough. When you're stressed, it's not variable. It's weird. But your heart actually says a really exact rhythm where it should always be adapting to little things. A little higher, a little lower, a little higher. So there's a variability. And the higher the variability, the healthier you are, actually, the less stress that you're under. That's, but lowers blood pressure as well, meditation. A majority of hypertension is idiopathic, which basically means they're not really sure, but they just know it's high and it could kill you. So take this, lower the drug, to lower your blood pressure. When it's idiopathic, it a lot of times is probably due to the nervous system's underlying tension is increased. And so their blood vessels are always a little tighter, which means the pressure is always a little higher. So naturally, we look at these things. You talked about this, but you want to touch on these because you were just kind of talking about that.
Right, because that's exactly how I felt a couple years ago. If you would have told me a couple years ago that I'm into meditation the way I am, I would have told you were crazy. That maybe you need to go meditate because I wasn't going to. Because I knew I couldn't stop thinking. I'm the person that, lays in bed at night and thinks about the 20 million things that need to be done tomorrow before I can fall asleep. I definitely don't have any time in my schedule. What are you talking about? Like, I'm a busy woman. I have a kid and a husband and a job. I got too many things on my plate. I am the perfection queen, and it is slowly killing my body. I need to understand that there is no perfect in anything, especially meditation, because it's all just about relaxing and breathing. I feel silly doing it. I never really felt like that. I've had my daughter meditate. She's going to be 11. So, she's at that age where a lot of things seem silly to her. And she would do the meditation, but she'd be like, Mommy, I'm going to lay on the floor on the other side of the bed and you can't watch me. But she at least would do it and it would calm her anxiety down. But thinking is totally normal, especially when you're meditating. Just know that. Time, I probably do it like 15 to 20 minutes every morning. So it's not like a huge chunk of time. I actually meditate while I'm waking up because I hate getting out of bed in the morning. So it's a way for me, it like slowly wakes my body up where I don't have to just jump right out of bed and start my day. There is no perfect, and there doesn't have to be an audience. So you don't have to look silly doing it. So just remember, it's a practice, not a performance. It's for you. It's not for anybody else.
So how to get started? We would say that probably 2 to 5 minutes really can be very effective. You do want to try to create a little bit of your own space, a little bit of being comfortable. We're always big. Your posture will matter too. Probably the simplest ways to try to get your brain a little bit off of its normal track of scatter and chatter is either using your breath or some sort of a word, mantra, sound. Those are probably the simplest ways to get the brain-body connection and get out of some of that fight or flight and get into that parasympathetic. So those are simple. Brain Tap, we like that app. That's just one that has some built-in extra visualization and other tunes and different audio stimulation to your brain. Basically, if you can't, it's really hard to turn your brain waves down, then this music and tones will bring it down. So Brain Tap, as you know, will do that and get you to be more of that expert monk in the woods and you did it for 20 minutes and he might have done it for 4 hours. It took him to just, get to that state. We can bring you that state faster with apps. There's something called the Insight Timer. I don't think that has a fee, Insight Timer. But that one is a nice, simple app that you can get to kind of help if you want some guidance from your phone. We were going to do a little meditation, just a breathing exercise, which we do a lot, but we're going to do that together. First thing is, if you're going to sit, now always make sure that your back is to the back of your chair. Make sure your buttocks is touching. You have a little bit of a curve there. Your head is over the shoulder, shoulder over the hip. This position is going to allow you to get more air in and be more efficient when you breathe. And so what we're going to do is we're first start with that good thing. Don't be stiff. It's just being tall. Remember, tall. So go ahead and everyone just close your eyes. You don't have to squeeze in real tight. Just soften your gaze. Just soften. Good. Place your hands on your knees, palms up or open. Good. And I want you all to just take an inhale for a count of 4. So go ahead and inhale. Hold that now just at the top and exhale. Good. Let's do that one more time. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that at the top. 3, 2, 1. And slowly out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. Just gently. Repeating that a couple times in a row resets your whole body. We found that creating new habits is one of the hardest things. If you change your habits, you will change your life. A lot of us will say, I'm waiting for this to change in my life and then I'll meditate. I'm waiting for this to change and then I'll start eating right. I'm waiting for this to change and I'll start to exercise. Our life doesn't change until we do. Ultimately, and it's a hard lesson. But if you're going to try to change with habits, you got to try to stack them together. It may be as simple as when you're brushing your teeth. I have people balance, now you're balance and meditate all at the same time. But brushing your teeth, just thinking, what are some of the routines that I get into right before you start a meal? Why do you think we say grace? Just to slow down. If your body is in a fight or flight state and you don't slow down, have a couple breaths before you eat, you're probably digesting that food properly and likely to get a third of the nutrients. So why we slow down? So maybe this is a little reminder. Use sticky notes, have phone alarms, block things into your calendar. The space, prepare a space. It doesn't have to be a whole room. It can just be one chair in a little corner, have a candle, some incense, just something that's a sacred space for prayer, for meditation, for anything. The sacred spaces are very important to try to carve out, even in the smallest environment, because that space, if nothing else, tells you, I'm waiting for you. Come on in. I'm here. People that, do tend to get into their meditation practice, as many as some of these other practices that we've talked about with eating right or moving their body, exercise, they adjust better. Their bodies are more resilient to stress. They have less tension. Their mind and body is just more aware. And I can tell you that on a clinical state for sure. So, reflect on some things, make a plan. Just make a plan. I think that's one of the biggest things. If you feel, mentally calm during your day, maybe you're doing some things in that right way. But if you don't, this might be a reason. If you can't fall asleep, you can't stay asleep, you might want to think about this. If you don't feel like you manage stress in the healthiest way, this may be for you. If you've tried meditation before, try it again. It usually takes a lot of time to get into a rhythm. Someone told me if I was going to change my practice, it'd take 3 years. If you have a big ship to turn it, it takes a long time. We've been ingrained in patterns. So remember, you're turning a big ship in the ocean. It doesn't turn on a dime. It's going to take time. But little bits of wins are the key. Just be open to it regular. I think rhythm, go back to what I said in the beginning. It's all about rhythm. We get our brains in rhythm if we give it rhythm. So it's not about judgment, just gentle check in to see where you are and what you need to do next. Thank you for being here. Have a good night.